Hi everyone, I'm Ara Oghoorian with ACAP Advisors and Accountants, and welcome to another edition of the ACAP Recap. Today we're going to talk about a groundbreaking piece of legislation that passed over the weekend that's going to affect millions of Americans, but it's also going to have a big impact on the Social Security system itself. The bill is called H.R. 82, also known as the Social Security Fairness Act, and it seeks to address a long-standing concern among the fairness of the Social Security system. Here's a roadmap of what we're going to cover in the presentation today. I'm going to first define what is H.R. 82 and give a broad strokes overview of it. Then I'm going to define what is the Windfall Elimination Provision and the government pension offset. We're going to go over who is impacted by these provisions, who is not impacted by these provisions. I'll show you how to calculate your windfall elimination provision. And then lastly, we'll try to determine when President Biden will actually sign H.R. 82 for it to go into law, hopefully before the end of the year. Okay, so H.R. 82 is also known as the Social Security Fairness Act of 2023. It eliminates a 40-year-old rule going back to 1983 that reduces Social Security for millions of Americans. Specifically, it eliminates the WEP and the GPO, also known as the Windfall Elimination Provision and the government pension offset. Now, if you are retired and at some point you worked for the government and you worked in the private sector, you absolutely are impacted by this WEP and GPO, or you're very familiar with it. This legislation is expected to cost over $195 billion over the next 10 years. Now, because the end result is people getting more money from Social Security, that means that it's going to have a bigger strain on Social Security over a longer period of time. The bill right now has passed the House and the Senate, and it passed the Senate on December 21st. Right now, it's pending signature by the president, and hopefully if it passes this year, it will be retroactive back until January 1st of 2024. Hey, if you like this video, please remember to subscribe, like, and share our channel. That way I can continue to make more videos like this. The WEP and the GPO, the Windfall Elimination Provision and the government pension offset, they were created under the Social Security Amendments Act of 1983. Now, the objective of that provision was to prevent people from getting more Social Security benefits than they were entitled to based on the Social Security's progressive benefit formula, which I'll cover next. Now, the WEP reduces the Social Security benefits of a worker who receives both a pension and Social Security benefits. But it's not just any pension. The WEP only applies to pensions that are not covered. That means that neither the employee nor the employer made contributions to Social Security. Now, all federal employees now contribute to Social Security, but there are still some states and local government workers who do not contribute to Social Security and also get a pension. So the Windfall Elimination Provision and the government pension offset still applies to those individuals. The GPO, the government pension offset, is similar to the WEP, but the GPO reduces the spousal benefits or the survivor benefits, whereas the WEP applies to the actual recipient of those Social Security benefits. Now, the calculation of the progressive benefit formula is beyond the scope of this presentation, but generally speaking, the formula calculates the average index monthly earnings, also known as the AIM, of that individual to determine how much of their benefits they're going to get. So once the average index monthly earnings is calculated, then it's divided into three different bands. The people who are in the lowest band, they receive 90% of their average index monthly earnings. But the people who are in the higher band receive only 15% of their average monthly earnings. So as a result, the formula gives a higher benefit to people who are in the lower AIM, lower band, versus people who are in a higher income band. So that way, it provides a higher benefit for people who are in a lower income category. The problem with this, and the reason why the WEP and the GPO were created, is because the people who received non-government pensions, so someone who had a pension that did not contribute to Social Security, had an artificially low artificially low average index monthly earnings. And so as a result, their Social Security benefits were higher than they should have been. But this passage of the 1983 Bill Act neutralized that by doing the Windfall Elimination Provision and the government pension offset, and it attempted to fix this inequality. So the WEP and the GPO only affects workers who split their careers between Social Security covered and non-covered jobs. A covered job, for example, is anyone in the private sector. So if you work in a private sector, you contribute to Social Security. In fact, your employer also contributes to Social Security. A non-covered job are jobs like teachers, firefighters, police officers, state and local government workers. Those are individuals that don't contribute to Social Security, but have a pension through their own system. For example, in California, teachers have a pension through CalSTRS, whereas someone who works for the government, the California government, will be part of CalPERS. They don't participate in Social Security. They don't contribute to it because they've got a pension through their local governments. Now, if H.R.82 passes and it's signed by the president, it will give all these individuals a retroactive raise going back to January 1st of 2024. So the WEP, the Windfall Elimination Provision, and the GPO, the government pension offset, will no longer apply to these individuals who currently have a lower Social Security benefit based on their split jobs between a covered job and a non-covered job. You are still subject to the Windfall Elimination Provision and the government pension offset, even if you earn the 40 credit hours required to be eligible for Social Security, but also had a non-covered job. A lot of people wrongly assume that if they've got the 40 quarters of Social Security, that they're automatically eligible for Social Security without any reductions, but that's not the case. If you've got the 40 quarters of Social Security and you had non-covered government pension, then you're going to be subject to the windfall provision, or you currently are. But if H.R. 82 passes, which many people assume that it will, then you too will get a retroactive raise going back to January 1st of 2024. So what is the 40 quarters rule? The 40 quarters rule essentially says you must earn 40 Social Security credits to be eligible for Social Security benefits. If you don't earn those 40 credits, you're not eligible for Social Security. Now, you can earn a maximum of 4 credits per year, and that credit amount that you have to earn changes every year. So in 2024, you earn 1/4 credit of coverage for every $1,700 approximately in earnings you have. And the maximum for the year for 4 quarters is $6,920, so $6,920. It's important to note that the quarters don't have to be consecutive. You might work all year and earn 4 credits, or you might earn all those 4 credits in just the first quarter, depending on how much money you make. 40 credits is equivalent to about 10 years of work. So you have to work about 10 years, assuming you earn those credits, to become eligible for Social Security. Now, like I said earlier, the amount of earnings it takes to earn changes every year. And for 2024, that was about $1,730 for every quarter. So during your lifetime, you might actually earn more credits than the minimum number you need to be eligible for the benefits. Now, these extra credits don't increase your benefit amount. They just make you eligible for the Social Security benefit that you're going to get. Now, your monthly Social Security benefit is determined by the average of your earnings over your working years. It's not determined by the total number of credits that you've earned during your lifetime. Now let's go over who is not going to get impacted by H.R. 82. As I mentioned earlier, the WEP and the GPO does not affect everyone. The people who it does not affect are people who work in the private sector, so private sector employees who contribute to Social Security. government employees who have also contributed to Social Security, individuals who don't have a government pension. Obviously, it's not going to affect them if they don't have a government pension. And then survivors or spouses who do not receive a pension from a non-covered job. That essentially means that if you are a survivor or a spouse of a Social Security beneficiary, and that person had a pension that was not from the government, from a non-covered job, then you are not going to get impacted by this. Also, it's important to note that if you got substantial earnings, 30 or more years of substantial earnings, you too are not going to get affected by the Windfall Elimination Provision or the government pension offset. So even if you have a covered position where you work for the government, you did not contribute to Social Security, but then afterwards or before that, you had 30 years of substantial earnings covered under Social Security, your Social Security benefits would not be reduced because you've got these 30 years of substantial earnings that you've contributed to Social Security. And the substantial earnings is defined as of this year as $31,275, which increases every year. So if every year you meet the substantial earnings test and you do that for 30 years, and all of a sudden you decide you're going to go work for a state or local government that has a pension plan, but they don't contribute to Social Security, you're in that situation, you're going to get that pension and you will get your Social Security without any windfall provision elimination. Obviously, this all doesn't matter anymore if the bill is signed into law by President Biden. If that happens, the windfall elimination provision and the GPO will be completely eliminated and no one will have a decrease in their benefits. So if you want to calculate what your windfall elimination provision is, what you want to do is you want to log into your Social Security account. And if you don't have a Social Security account, I recommend you set one up regardless of what happens with H.R. 82 and whether or not it passes, because it's an important thing to have to get your annual Social Security statement. So then once you've logged in, then download your Social Security statement that's going to show all the years that you've contributed to Social Security and what your Social Security contributions have been. This is a very important factor because if there's an error in one of those years, for example, if you worked and those Social Security earnings were not reported, you want to make sure you get that corrected because that's what's going to be used to base your overall Social Security benefits. Then go to the Social Security website and there's a windfall elimination calculator. I'll include the link below so that way you'll have access to it. And then once you're on that calculator, you're going to use the statement that you just downloaded, your Social Security statement, and it's going to ask you for each of the years. Then it's going to ask you want to also put in your monthly amount from your non-covered pension. So if you have a pension where you did not contribute to Social Security, that's the monthly amount you want to use. Don't use a pension that you have that has income where you contributed to Social Security. So for example, if you work for the federal government recently and you have a pension through the federal government employees now contribute to Social Security. So you would not want to put that pension income in there. Otherwise, it's going to artificially reduce your Social Security benefits because it's going to count that pension income as non-covered, but reality is it is covered. So when will the president actually sign H.R. 82? So right now, the Senate just recently passed it, but it's on the president's desk. And because of the holiday, he has not signed it yet, but everyone assumes that the president's going to sign this and it's going to go into effect. But once it does go into effect, there's going to be increased payments going retroactively back to January 1st of 2024. So whoever received a windfall elimination provision reduction in 2024 is now going to have a retroactive payment for that reduction. So if you're receiving a pension now and Social Security benefits, and that pension was from a non-covered position, so if you worked for the state or local government, you didn't contribute to the Social Security system, and you're receiving a pension, your Social Security benefit right now is being reduced. But if this bill passes, it's going to go retroactive back to January 1st of this year, And that Social Security benefit is now going to get adjusted and you're going to get an additional check. And then going forward, it's going to be your normal Social Security benefit that you're entitled to.